Okay, so it's been a couple of days. I've spent a lot of time playing with it. It's now pretty functional, but there are still things that even as a prototype, which is kind of how it's going to be, even as a prototype, it just has to have these changes made. And I should just write down what they are just now. They're the final things, really. This machine has been running for days and compiling, and it's had the recursor running for days. Never mind those things. To do. This has never reoccurred. I don't know. Also never reoccurred. Okay, that's probably the wrong way to spell occurred. Anyhow. One thing is, the effect of the something that I'm doing. I mean, on the right and bottom side of the image, I understand how it is that the pixels are emerging dimmer. But it seems that on the right and top of the image, the pixels are emerging differently there as well, and I'm really not sure about that. But the clipping has become, it seems, very reliable, and I think I'm just going to force the problem to be fixed by rendering the images to an array which is larger than the image, with a single pixel frame around it, and copying the relevant parts out of that array to a new array that's stored in the actual array. Very frustrating, but has to be done. Also very frustrating is, how do I even word this? Form high threshold spline for smooth. Okay, I'll just say form spline for smoothly animating high thresholds. This is going to alter the array definition save file again, and I am going to have to think about it. I mean, I've got a lot of arrays saved now, but it's not the end of the world just to lose them. The new arrays will be better, in a way. If I'm going to do that, then maybe I should think about moving the bloody arrays to be doubles as well, because floats, I think, have too low a high threshold. I can't represent a large enough number with a float. But the reason it's going to change the array definition save file, or file structure, is that in the end I will what will be allowed is a scaling sum, and a threshold type. And the threshold can be relative, it can be absolute, and it can be, well, I think that I don't know whether or not to make this spline thing completely invisible. Like I might want to make it relative and unsmoothed, or relative and smoothed. Man, it's really frustrating to be coming back to these things when I know that this is only ever going to be able to do a certain amount of stuff. Oops, I just closed render. But anyway, am I really going to do this? It's really quite annoying. But something like threshold types string equals new string absolute relative smoothed. The absolute never changes during the course of an animation, so it doesn't need smoothed. This is quite annoying. It is really quite annoying. But okay, well, it's the way it has to be. So, stop. Oh no, hang on a sec, am I rendering something just now? Don't think so. No. Okay. Right. So the first thing I'm thinking here is, like the scale style, a threshold type needs to be stored with it's going to have to be stored with this as well. And I'm just going to go for it. Why am I not getting... because I didn't spell this right. Threshold type. Why am I not getting it? Well, hopefully it'll catch up. So after scale value, so a project not only stores these, but it also stores threshold type. And so I suppose I can do equals threshold types 0. And high threshold is going to become a float. God, I can't believe these things have been integers. And I'm going to lose my project file again. Just while I'm thinking about that, another thing I have to do, palettes and gradients, gradient sets need save load function. Oh boy, can't believe really that I'm back to this. So these things can be floats, there's no reason for them to be integers. Oh, they should probably be doubles as well. Screw that, I'm going to get back to doubles later. Do all this palaver. Right. So basically I say it gets set straight to be threshold type 0, which is absolute, and that's a bad thing. Why am I doing this to myself? It should be relative smoothed, I think, should be the default. I think. Does it make sense? Yeah, and starting with a value, a high threshold value of 0, it just does make sense. Anyway, for the basic sort of rendering you'll always be doing. So immediately prior to loading the low threshold, copying the low threshold and saving the low threshold, I want to load why is it taking such a long time? Oh god, okay, whatever, threshold type. fs read c string. Really? Yeah. So immediately before a low threshold. And again. This does bring up a thing, which is I'm not saving all the values, I'm just storing a single value. This scale value thing is just pretty trashy. Jesus. Oh man, if I have to come back to that as well I will be annoyed, but I probably will have to. I'll probably think about other sums which require multiple values and I'll have to make a class. Anyway, for now, I'm going to just store it as a string. Save it, load it, and copy it as a string. Now, man, a couple of days away from it, just playing with it, and I'm totally lost, basically. But one of the things that now needs to happen is that I need two buttons. where I once had one. Well, where now I have one. I once had two, but now I want two of a different sort. Recursor GUI. Draw mode options, which should really become paint mode, but anyway. And render options should become output options. Anyway. High threshold button now needs a new thing, which is field threshold type menu root close button height. So here where do I do? Okay, right, yeah, it should work. Okay. Threshold type menu equals new menu root self comma dit threshold type. This is pointless because it'll be filled in by update gadget cx cy button width button height threshold type menu align sides 0 1 0 0. I think I could go 0 0 there, or 0. Oh no, yeah, 0 1 0 0 1 1. That could also be 0 1 there. Anyway, and threshold type menu set items threshold types and cy plus equals threshold type menu height. What's the problem? Okay. Response. Menu select origin, scale style, case, threshold type menu, project, threshold type equals threshold type, oh, for goodness sakes, threshold types, data. Okay. Man, I should really just get rid of this stuff. That can go away. Also, just while I'm here, this can be called paint options. Set high scale value. Update gadgets. Here we are. I'll change this to say threshold value, and inside threshold type menu text equals threshold type. Threshold, what's a better way to put it? I mean, I'm calling it threshold type, but is there a better way? Threshold. Could I just call it threshold plus project threshold type? think that's okay. And also while I'm here, let me just change that to output options. Now, I think pretty sure that that is allowing me to decide a threshold type. Oh, stop, don't bother. I already know I'm in trouble here. You may as well go away, you're not going to manage to load. Man, I'm going to be back to nothing. Anyway. Okay, that's title in this case. Silly name. So, this is just going to allow me to select the threshold type. Now I need to get back into renderer. And I need to do these two big changes. The renderer will have now obviously a threshold type loaded. What do I mean? I mean when the renderer loads its project, it can refer to its threshold type to decide what to do. Am I even thinking about the renderer when I'm thinking about... I'm not really, I'm thinking about paint. Paint array. But I'm going to go into the renderer first. I'm going to fix that array problem. Make the border. Although there is part of the stuff that happens inside renderer does rely on those things. Get pretty sweet frame rates. Let me have a little look at something. Oops, I pushed a button. Yeah, my monitor is still giving 60 Hertz. Feels like I'm getting very much more, and it looks smoother, but don't know why. Everything is set to extremely low is the main thing. I forgot to put a number in. Yeah, okay. Well, okay, it fits just relative smoothed, relative absolute. Threshold value, it should be a set. Threshold value is now a floating point. I have to remember that. Okay, I'm not going to faff with this too much because I may end up changing many things about this. I mean, I don't know how I'm getting a frame rate more than 60 frames a second. I don't believe I can be. I mean, it's obviously rendering more than 60. I can't understand how it looks smoother at those higher frame rates, really. If ultimately my frame rate is only... does that make sense? Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, okay, so firstly, in here, oops, not that far, in here, like that. Now I'll have the proper menu type. Now, most horribly, inside render 1, what the hell happens? Output image at preview position. actually, come to think of it, when I do think, what am I trying to do here? I think, oh, man, it is more of a pain in the arse than it seems. It really bloody is. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid frame to frame leaps in the high threshold value when that threshold value has been set to be relative to the actual high point of any individual frame. And my plan to do that is to decide the high points of a set of frames sort of dispersed throughout the entire animation, and use those high points to form a spline, make them the control points in a spline. I can't wait to change what I'm drawing, what I'm working on here. Control points in a spline, and for the remaining frames use values drawn from that spline as the high points to be used for the painting. That's pretty obscene seeming. Paint array takes project array, and it uses high threshold from the project. An array describes a single image. So output image goes to render. Output anim goes to render after this point. Yeah. And it's inside render. Add frame info to long. Yeah, it's inside render that. God damn, this will need a big change. It's inside render that the array gets written. Is it? Man, it's not even there. It's inside render gradient. Yuck. Really, really yuck. Yeah, wow. When I render an image, smoothing the high threshold is irrelevant. It's only when I render an array. Both rendering an image and rendering array call render. Rendering an image and rendering an anim call render. Sorry, I'm looking at this. Oh yeah, that's me making the bloody concat file. Jesus. Yeah, all that is really to do with ffmpeg. This bit is the thing. Yeah, so render is the thing that gets called, and it's just asking for a file and a position. And that is not enough information. It's like I should be able to send a high point into render. It's clumsy to do that, but that's the quickest way I can think to do it. Yeah. Because then, when I'm outputting an image, I just send in project. Well, actually, I make a decision about what I send in based on the project threshold type. But I send in a value there. Man, it's half an hour already, and all I've done is kind of decide what it is I need to do. I suppose I've done a bit more than that. But I am going to take a quick break just now, and I'm going to be back soon to do the next thing, because doing it this way is not that great, but I'm going to do it this way anyway because it's kind of the easiest. Basically what I'll do is, so here I'll be sending in, depending on whether or not you've selected relative. What am I saying? Nah, it has to happen inside render. I'm going to have to restructure this. Well, at least I've got the projects saving the type of threshold thing they want. That's not that much, but next time I'm going to think about restructuring the renderer to allow me to determine the thresholds more closely.